So I've got that on record now. So we'll have to be aware of that. But you might be able to see this because I've put it up on a screen. It won't matter anyway. Because, I don't need to share screen because you'll be able to go and watch the video. When I haven't got my hands on.
Yeah, I watched the video, and the thing is, I don't need to see the screen because I really find it quite hard to read the screen.
All right.
That's why the other time we had that meeting, I liked to actually having the 1688 Bill of Rights printed out in front of me, and that's what I was looking at. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Really hard to read the screen, and
that's what I say to everybody, that if you go and print everything,
that's what we need to do. Is we just need to print it off, and we need to sit down and we need to go over it. You know, it's very hard when you're looking on the computer, especially when you get past 50. It's kind of hard to, you know.
There are many documents that I want to go through with you all, but it really is not a good thing to do if you don't have it printed. Because you have to be able to flick back and sometimes if we've got it on screen and I go and change somewhere, it's better if you can follow with your finger, and you'll learn, and you can make notes on your paper too, can't you? And stuff like that.
That's what I did. I actually seen something up the other day. I mean, we've got freedom fighters, you know, and they're all getting everyone's so confused, Kate. You know, I really feel that at the moment, and they're pushing for urgency on cases. Just bring me your cases, bring me your signatures, make sure it's a digital signature for anything if you've been harmed or maimed by the vaccine mandates or whatever, because I have political power here that I'm going to, you know, and it's like, seriously. People are desperate. People are vulnerable, and I don't like that. I get really angry about that. So I'm just saying, no, take it if you're going to go to court. Make sure the lawyer's going to take it on a 1688.
The court order, because all right, I'm going to just read this for you because I have wanted to put this up. Right, where is this court order? Right, I have put this. I'm not going to share screen, but I'll just tell it to you, and I've got it. You can watch the video later. All right. So we're going to talk about this court order. In this court order, I better show because last time YouTube took my video down, and I've really wanted to do this video again, so might as well do it with you. So here, YouTube, if YouTube is looking on here, YouTube, you can see that this is the High Court of New Zealand in the Wellington Registry. So this is a true document from the court, all right? So what we know to be in here, we know to be true. And this was with the Minister of the Workplace, Commissioner of Police, Chief of the Defence. I'm not going to go into everything that I talked on the first video, but all I'm going to say is about the ruling. So we're going to go straight down to the ruling, because it's a long document, so let's not, let me get down there. So if you go straight down to the ruling on 105, hang on, I'll just make sure I've got it right bit. Listen, here's what it says. It says, in essence, the order mandating, I'm not allowed to use that word, so I'm not going to use that word. So, right. So, in essence, the order of mandating the actions by the government for the police and the New Zealand staff was imposed to ensure the continuity of public services. And then it goes on to say, to promote the public confidence in those services. And then he says, indeed, the health advice provided to the government was that further mandates were not required to restrict anymore. And he said, this is what he says, I'm not satisfied that continuity of these services is material advanced by the order. So he was saying that throughout the case, that based on the evidence of the case, it was not necessarily for the government to continue to have mandates in regards to that thing called number 19, right? So the thing called number 19, he says, according to this evidence here, it is no longer necessary to have the mandates. And everybody jumped up and down and did a hallelujah. We won the case. No more mandates. As you can see, that is not the case, right? And why is it not the case? Because I'll tell you why. Because
there's something new.
Yeah, so down here in 106.
Oh, whoops.
He said in 106, he said that the 19 clearly involves a threat to the continuity of police and NZD services. He said that is because the OMI, the new one in particular, is very, very transmissible. And he said because of that, it can affect both people that have had that thing and not had that thing. So it is irrelevant if they need to have that thing.
So, in other words, he was saying, he was agreeing with the science that's coming out of other countries already, saying that it's no threat to the people because it's
stronger. It's stronger than the previous one of the 19. So we can call this the new one of 22 and the old one of 19. Right. Yeah. So the judge said that the new one of 22 is so much stronger than the old one of 19 that it really doesn't matter if you get the 19 or if you have had the prevention of 19 or not, because everybody is still going to get the new 22 version. And then he says the mandates.
And the 22 version isn't going to kill you.
Well, that's not what the judge said. The judge said in 107. So this is the problem, because previous to this ruling, everyone had said that the new 22 version was fine. Well, obviously, it wouldn't be fine if it was going to be stronger than the 19 one. Is that?
Yeah.
So that's just using logic. If they're saying that it is stronger than the 19 one and can even people that have had the prevention from the 19, even if they've had the prevention, they can still get the new 22 version because it is stronger. So the judge says, I should make this clear what this case is not about. The order being set aside in the present case was not implemented for the purposes of limiting the spread of 19. The health advice was that such a further mandate was not needed for this purpose. So he said, the government has already said, we don't need these mandates for the 19 anymore. Even the government has said that. This is what the judge says. But then he says, neither should the court's conclusion be understood to question the effectiveness and importance of the prevention measures. So he in that sentence has ruled out any claims to compensation in that sentence.
Yeah, exactly. They're not ruling anything out.
He has said that at that time the government needed to do what they needed to do in the best interest to protect the public. And
yeah, and they're covering their ass, aren't they? Sorry,
yes,
but
and then so he
that's
has
basically
anyone
where
that
it's
goes
at.
to make a claim, they're going to pull this ruling, and they're going to say, no, all of the mandates were perfectly fine, we agree, and all of the preventative measures, we agree with that. However, we also agree that the mandates should stop because, and then it goes on to say, mandates should stop because there is no more danger from the 19 problem. However, this is what he goes on to say. The evidence shows that prevention measures starting with V significantly improves the prospects of avoiding illness and death. Even with the new 22 starting with O. So he said here, listen carefully, it confirms the importance of a booster dose given the waning effect of the first 2 doses.
So they're corrupt, aren't they? They are in
Well, we
on the
can't talk
game.
about the court like that on video. So
No.
all we can say is that they have, don't worry about it, don't worry. It's not,
Yeah, but
if we see each other saying something that we shouldn't say, saying one word doesn't affect, but stopping the conversation about it is important, and I just do that. So you can do the same to me. If you see me start talking about something that I shouldn't,
yeah.
you could just jump in and just say, hey, we probably shouldn't talk about that right now. We have to be very careful of defamation and all of these things.
Yes.
And this is a proper court document, so we do have to be careful. But this is what the judge has said. So basically in section 107, he has removed any ability to claim compensation because he has said everything that they did was fine. And then he's gone on to say all of that is finished now, but now we've got a new one, which is the O. And for that one, we recommend that you have the V. And so this is why the new Health Response Act has come out just recently. That has just come out, and that's going to be different to include what this judge's ruling has incorporated. So all of these people, this is a very important video that we're making today, Diane, because all of these lawyers that are telling you that you can go and make a claim, they're going to flood your claims with United Nations law. And here's why they need you. You can't see this, but I'm not focused on any of that anymore because you don't even need to read the damn thing. You already know what the judge just said, right?
Yeah.
So he's basically said, I agree everything they said. I agree everything that they
He's
did.
agreeing with her.
Yeah, and he said, however, that's finished and there's a new one here now, and you should go and get your V to cover yourself from the new ones. The whole process is just going to begin again. He's already told you that. Now, but this is what is the problem here. Now, I'm going to just tell you this. I've got the documents here. I'm just going to tell everybody about it.
Farewell.
Eh?
It doesn't feel farewell for humanity.
Yeah, and there's something that I really wanted to get on video, so I'll just do it right now. I hope I've got my papers. Hang on. See if I've got them here. Right. So I've got the papers here. You might not be able to see on your screen. So I'm going to show you. You're not going to see it, but I'll be reading it to you, okay? So just skip everything in there, but everyone should go directly to section 44. And this is what they did.
Of the New Zealand 19?
No, of the court ruling. You can't see it. So section 44. Have you got it?
Yeah, because I printed it off. Is that the Yardley case?
Yeah. Have you got that?
Yeah. Yeah, I have actually.
This is very important.
I want to highlight it actually because that's what
you also need your 1990 Bill of Rights.
Right.
So you need the Yardley case. You need your 1990 Bill of Rights.
Yeah, but just keep going because
all right. Yes, so I'm just going to tell the public. So if you just see the 1990 Bill of Rights, I have really wanted to do this video, so I'll put it up. And in the 1990 Bill of Rights, you go to view hole. If you go right down, now I know that we're being scammed, and I'll tell you how I know. Because this here is called other rights and freedoms not affected.
Yeah.
And it says an existing right or freedom shall not be held to be abrogated or restricted by reason only the right or freedom is not included in this Bill of Rights or is included only in part. So when I made my case against the COVID health response, I used this S28. This is S28. And I said, and I said, we come under the 1688 Bill of Rights, and that has no cruel and unusual punishment and no forfeiture of person without conviction. And so I used both of those to say that that having these V's was a cruel and unusual punishment, and also it was a forfeiture of our person without any conviction. And there was a lot of other stuff, but that was the main point. And we were saying that anyway, it really doesn't matter because we are not included in these 1990, because these rights were for the United Nations, not for us. Yeah. So I used this in my case, all right? I call it S28. Now, I put in my case now I sent the money from Thailand to New Zealand. I don't know if anyone can see here, but I sent the money of $540 to New Zealand on the 22nd of December. That was sent. And then we filed our case you can't see it here, but people might be able to see, but I'm not sure, but I'll post it another day. But on here, are you able to see the writing or is it backwards?
I can see the writing, it's blanked out, but I can't really see it, to be honest.
Okay, but the main point is, all right, the main point is that in the first document, it shows that I sent the money on the 22nd of December.
Yeah.
And on the second document, this was a letter back to us from the court. And it confirms in here that we had filed our case and paid on the 25th of December. Right? And they sent this letter on the 17th of January saying to us, you have to refile your case again because you didn't put the Maori writing on the top of the front page. Yeah, now I'm going to tell you a little bit of the skullduggery going on. Go and look at their case. They filed their case on they filed their case on the, it was filed on the 6th
6th
of
of January.
January,
Or something,
yes,
yeah.
and their case was heard on the 15th of February. Yeah, I had when they had filed it. But theirs was filed on the 6th of January. Yeah, because it goes down here in the court document. Yes, it says here. If you go down to number 2, have you got your court document?
Yes, I've got the court document, but
So,
it's really hard to see.
On number, oh, you don't have your glasses, dear. Well, you don't need them.
No, I don't.
So if you see here, go to number 2.
Okay.
And on number 2, it says that they filed their document on the 6th of January. So I filed mine using S28. Now, S28 has never...
Section 28.
S28 has never been used in the history of New Zealand since the 1990 was created. S28 has never, ever been used. Ever.
But are they trying to...
well, just let me
nullify?
I'll show you in a minute. So I filed on the 22nd, the 25th of December, and they filed theirs on the 6th of January, and I got mine back on the 17th of January, and their case was heard on the 15th of February and released to the public on the 25th of February. So, but look what happened. Go down to section 44.
But it was good for you, wasn't it?
Very good, because I went back and redid my whole case based on what they did. I think they were waiting for me, and I was slow because I had to rewrite it because I had just had a letter from Chris Farfoy about the Declaration of Inconsistency, and I wanted to rewrite it to add the Chris Farfoy case and the Arthur Taylor case, and so just luckily for me, I didn't send it. It worked out well. It was God's intervention. But look, on section 44, Mr. Haig, their lawyer, relied on the right to work using the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. And then he relied on Articles 6 and 8 of the International Covenant on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights. He used 2 United Nations laws to fight his case, absolutely. And then the opposition for the government, the opposition for the court turned around and said, Ms. McCall, she said, oh, but those rights are not to be found in the New Zealand Bill of Rights, so you can't use them. And Mr. Haig turned around and said, oh, the existence of other rights and freedoms is preserved by S28 of the New Zealand Bill of Rights. So he just attached every single United Nations law that's not in the 1990, he has attached it to S28.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. It's
Matthew Haig, he has introduced that sneakily through Section 28, which preserved our 1688 Bill of Rights.
I don't know if it was previously written, if this was all set up and it was always intended, but I just do think that it's very strange that my case went in using S28 and this case suddenly turns up a few days later when it's never been used in its history. But maybe it was always there intended to do this, but maybe they were waiting for a moment in time and I had gotten onto it before anybody was supposed to. So it's very interesting to me. There's many suspicions around it.
Yeah, absolutely. And also the fact that, you know, they are bringing these cases and there's more cases coming through. There's kids, people standing up with their kids not being able to play sport or not being able to, they've been shut out of sports toilets and stuff like that. There's all sorts of stuff going on with the mandates and the segregation. So people are fighting it, and that's what they want. They know that's going to happen. That's why they've put these, that's why you've got the heavy-handed of the corporate coming in and saying, no, you can't do that. No, you can't do that. So people are going to stand up.
Well,
take your case to court.
You do have to be careful because they're all going to attach every single right. It can even attach the American Constitution. It can apply because it doesn't say other rights in New Zealand. It says other rights, and
so
and
it's
open season. Now here's why they want these sports cases, because look, the judge turned around and he said, I accept Ms. McCall's submission that such rights recognised in international instruments can be taken to have only indirect relevance, and that they do so through the machinery of New Zealand's domestic legislation, which sets out the principles of employment law. Now, I want to explain this to everybody. This is the reason why you have the New Zealand Bill of Rights. It was created so that they could create protections for employment laws of the United Nations for immigrants that were coming into New Zealand. And so they needed to have a machine that their laws could come in, that the immigrants could use within New Zealand. And so the New Zealand Bill of Rights was called that machine. It is merely a conveyor belt of their laws to be able to get some kind of rights under our law. And so the judge has said that. So this is saying it right here. That 1990 Bill of Rights is not for New Zealand people. It isn't. And it never was.
So in saying that, Kate, so just so we can get some clarity around that. So, okay, so New Zealand is a country that has embraced immigration. We've embraced it. We've embraced the culture. Our kids have gone to school with different cultures, and we have, we've loved that different culture. So is it to protect those people? Is that why they did it, to bring in this? Because to me, I look at United Nations and I see it is not, it can appear, what is it?
Well, I've said to the judge in my court, I've said to the judge, the United Nations has made too many laws. They've overstepped. I think that they've overstepped their welcome, because they have said, we've got rights to houses, we've got rights to equal pay, we've got rights. So let's talk about, well, just before we go there, I'll do this. Can you bring me back to this? Because I really want to talk about this. But I will just come back here because I want to finish the judge's ruling. So he said, including the ability, so they wanted to give the immigrating people the ability to take their case to the Employment Relations Authority and the Employment Court. That's what this 1990 is a work. Other countries don't have it. Other countries have a separate law, and then they give their immigrants the ability to get compensation if they are not treated well. But for some reason with New Zealand, they decided to try and add it onto our law, and it's a massive failure. We could have just written them a separate act for them, and they could have said, there's your rights in here, and this is where you can go to. I don't think they needed to attach it onto our law. No. And when they did that, they took away. So we've all been deceived. Well, then, but here's what he says. Wait till we finish. He said that legislation can be taken to be New Zealand's domestic implementation of such principles. So he's told you there, right there, what it's for. He said, but that employment law machinery may not apply to all police and NZDF personnel. Now, they have put thousands of immigrants into our New Zealand police, and they've put thousands of immigrants into our New Zealand army. And that's why they've intermingled them with our law. And so he's come, so the police, the judges said, I don't know if you can use that kind of law to utilise our police and our army. So they've used our police and used our army to advance their cause, because they got suddenly a large number of 15,000 police and 15,000 army members.
Yeah, so already they've got 30,000 people that are just going to give that a lot of
power
ammunition.
And using United Nations laws. And now they're asking all of you to come in, and they're going to put United Nations laws on all of those and attach it to the police. And that's what they're all
asking for it now,
Yeah, that's why.
That. Come on, give us your signature. And it's so wrong. It's so, you've got vulnerable people out there and these freedom movements. I mean, there was an SOS call from Linda Wharton, who is for the Health Forum, and she is advocating that everyone just sign something. She doesn't even, she says, I have a special meeting and it's all very da-da-da. But seriously, why? But you've got so many vulnerable people out there that could fall for that, and that's what she's trying to get, is the numbers. And she's ended up with a group of numbers or whatever.
I'm going to show you the remedy for it.
Ammunition.
Yeah, I'm going to show you the remedy, because as you can see from here, this judge has already stopped any chance of getting compensation through that. So you should tell everybody that it's clear from this ruling here that there will be no compensation forthcoming. And I will tell you why. It's going to open the door for millions and trillions. They're never going to be able to pay it. No judge is going to give a single payout on these compensations. Now, Thailand was clever. Thailand was clever because they made the vaccine companies sign a piece of paper to say that, hey? All right, it's okay, dear. They made the companies sign a document that they would be responsible for any injuries. And so the company was more careful. The money wasn't much, but there was $5,000. They didn't get much. They got $10,000 for a death, $5,000 for a loss of the leg, but they got something. But all your countries didn't do that. They're never going to allow that. Yes.
Australia, New Zealand,
all of yours.
Yeah.
So none of yours. I suspect that most of the Asian countries got this, and the reason why they got this is because their money's low. So we give them $5,000. If they're getting $60 million for their product, and they've got to pay out $5,000 to a couple of hundred people, there's no loss to them, is there? But in our countries, $5,000 isn't going to go far when you've lost your leg, is it? So you're going to want more. And so they're not going to pay all of that. So
with New Zealand, we have ACC. We have a no-fault system.
Yes.
But in saying that, they are not recognising myocarditis and all those things that they're saying, no, it's not a thing.
Just use the V sign if you want to say that V word. We use the V sign. And then what's this sign going to be? This one. we'll say it what's her name?
The jab.
The pen. Right, we use
Yeah.
the pen and the V. So,
Yeah.
but we're not finished this. We have to really look. So then he turned around and he said, moreover, the employment court has a limited judicial review jurisdiction. So this is what had happened, is that if they had a problem, they could use their 1990 and then they could use it for employment laws. That's what it was designed. The 1990 Bill of Rights is a machine for employment laws, for immigration. That's what it's for. Yeah, they've been really lying to you. There's a deception here. And he said, so when they usually had a problem, they could go to the employment court, which had jurisdiction over all of that. And they would do a judicial review in the employment court and the employment relations. And the 1990 was never brought to the Commoners Court. So in order to get it into the Commoners Court, they had to deceive all the New Zealand people to get you to bring it into the Commoners Court and not get immigrants to bring it in, because immigrants were not allowed to. So you have been deceived immensely. And so they've managed...
And that's what they're doing now, isn't it? They've just...
Yeah. And they've managed to get this into the court. And now listen to what he says. So since Mr. Hague used S28 and connected it to Universal Declaration of Human Rights and International Covenant on Economic and Social and Cultural Rights, since he has attached that to S28, then the judge has had to say all of that 1990 was for employment, a machine for the employment rights that they could use at the employment court. But then the judge says, more or less, he's saying, since it was brought here and since you forced me to deal with it, he has turned around and said, only the High Court has such jurisdiction over whether it follows that it would be a function of the High Court to review the legality of the measures imposed by the order in light of the principles reflected in international law. Now, you won't really quite comprehend that, but what it is...
So...
Yes, I'll see if you do. You might have, and I think you don't, but you might have. Okay.
Okay, so basically he is questioning the validity of it, that with that particular case that they brought forward under Section 28, that it needs another case to come through to give it some validity, and it's got no teeth at the moment, is what they would have said in law. Like, I don't know.
No, because it's going to have to go to a constitutional court judge.
Yeah.
So this, even though it says here, so I'm finished telling you that, but...
So am I right in what my comprehension is of...
Yes, you are. Yeah, you're right on the button. So I should not say that you don't understand, because you do. And if you do, then everybody else. So my apologies for being so rude. But yes, you right on the button. Right on the button. But you see, so this here says the High Court of New Zealand, but I'm not quite sure if what went right to the Constitutional High Court, because he's just said you have to go to the Constitutional High Court. So I'm not sure if their case was looked at as a constitutional case. It was only looked at as an ordinary law. But it was in the High Court because it concerned government officials. like an administrative court, because there are all many different kinds of courts.
Yeah.
But usually when we get a declaration on our 1688, that goes directly to the High Court in the constitutional area. And until the judge got this, I think they saw this, in my assumptions,
Yeah.
as an
absolutely.
ordinary law coming to the High Court because it involved government officials. And then the judge has seen that and he said, you know what, you have to go to the Constitutional High Court about this and let them figure out the madness of what you've done. So
Yeah.
that's why they need all of you now. And
To go under the Constitutional Court to bring a declaration that we can override what's going on under the deception of the 1990. And I mean, yeah.
I suspect what I suspect they will do is collect, now that they know about S28, you know, I can't be vain and say it was through me, but it is very suspicious that S28 has never been used in 30 years, and I filed my case, and 2 weeks later they filed their case using S28. I'm very suspicious.
Yeah, nothing's coincidence. So
No.
that's one thing.
And I'll be sending a complaint, I'll be sending a complaint about that, because I think that I have enough evidence to say that there's corruption somewhere here. I don't know where the corruption was, but we know there was corruption here, I think. Unless they can show to me that there have been several cases using S28 and the United Nations laws, but I don't think there is. So that's my evidence. And so what I think that they're going to do is they're going to use S28 to take a bunch of cases to the very high court based on what this judge has said. They're going to, based on what this judge has said, they're going to get your cases and take it. But let me just tell you this, New Zealand, that you're not going to win on compensation. You're going to only win on United Nations laws that are going to get United Nations laws instituted into New Zealand. The judge has already said that you're not going to win in regards to that, because he's already said it's in public safety and that he agrees and that you should all go and get your booster for the new 2022, that one. So this judge has said that. So he's already made the ruling. You're not going to win on that. And I suspect that even if they have the only way that you New Zealand people would get compensation is if they appealed his decision, which they're not. They would have to appeal his decision, and they would also have to go to the High Court using S28. So, and if they have not appealed his decision, then they're not taking you there for compensation. But I have got a bit of good news for you.
Oh, yippee!
I have. If you dumped the United Nations, now this has not been done, and I'm not saying that you would win. But if you dump the United Nations and you went to court as a subject on your 1688.
Yeah.
Now, it's never been done before. So I'm quite happy for anyone to go and do it, because I'm busy doing something else. I'm busy fighting the United Nations. So I'm quite happy.
That's what we need, because we've got people going to court at the moment and we're trying to tell them to stand up on their 1688, yeah?
Yeah. So if you were to go to your 1688, how would you be able to use that in regards only to the... First of all, you would still use your S28. And I would say, I would use my S28 and I would say, we're not in that law, so they can't use it to tell us what to do. That's the first major point that I would make. But the
So
sec-
do they have to be born of this country, or is
no,
it just anyone? Like,
anyone that comes, including Indians, Pacific Islands, anyone that comes from a Commonwealth country can go to the court with this law. And you can even be, hey, you can even be an immigrant. Even immigrants, as long as you're from a Commonwealth country, and as long as you're a subject, there are 16 Commonwealth countries. And if you come from any of those countries, you can use this law because you're a subject. You can all use it. Actually, I think even any immigrants that are not Muslim or that any Protestant can use it. This is not a discriminatory document like they try to make out.
But people from Romania or people from Germany, or
Yes, all of you can use it. Don't think that you have to be white. They call it the white supremacy law, but what a lie. As long as you can come from Tokelau, Cook Islands, Niue, you can come from, I think even India is still under some Commonwealth. Anyone of the 16 countries.
Good to know. Yeah.
Yes, so this is not. So all of you can come in, and you can't use all of these laws. There's some of them that you can't use. But in regards to these rights here that you have, you can all use these. And I would go to the court.
And that's important. That's an important, moving forward, is for people to know that, because we have a lot of, as you say, we are a multicultural country. New Zealand has become that. And so, and that's where we are.
You see, Muslims, unfortunately for Muslims, but this is by their choice, they choose not to stand under the majesty because they believe in their religious leader is the highest law. And so they don't believe in other people's laws. So that's not our problem. That's up to them if they want to choose. If they want to come and stand under this, they can. But it means it would be like it would be like treasonous against their leader. And Catholics probably wouldn't use it because it would be treasonous against the Pope. But that's their choice to have that. And they get lots of protections due to this anyway. It's up to them if they want to use it. They can choose or not choose. It's really up to them. But the ones that I would use would be the
Section 28.
No, yeah, you've got to use your Section 28, and you would say, we're not in this law because Section 28 says other rights are not included and cannot be abrogated. So that's got that in there, right? So that means we can move over to a different set of rights, which are these ones, recognised in New Zealand law. There it is, 26th of March 2015. They had to bring it back because they illegally removed it, but they've put it back now. So there it is here in New Zealand law. But you'll notice on here that it doesn't say New Zealand. Do you know why that is?
No, why did they do that?
Because it applies to all the Commonwealth. Anyone in Commonwealth countries can use this. So it doesn't say New Zealand. It actually comes from British law, which I've told you. But you look on this one, is very different because it says it there. This only has power in New Zealand to help this was specifically designed for immigration people to come through and to be able to have rights in the employment court. That's what it was designed for. It was not designed to infringe or impinge.
Take away our rights.
Yeah, exactly. But unfortunately,
that's what we're up against, isn't it?
Well, this is what they're attempting to do. So I don't know whether it was by design that they didn't put in here existing rights of New Zealand or of the Commonwealth. I suppose that they couldn't because they wouldn't be allowed to put in a New Zealand Act things that affect other Commonwealth countries. So they tried to slip this in here, but it has turned around because of me, I suspect, to bite them in the ass unless the High Court judge nips it in the bud, which I filed a case to try and get that to happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's my second case now, the new case, that's currently waiting to see what they will do to me this time, considering what they did. So you use this because you get away, Fly. Sorry, Fly. You've used S27 here. This is called S27. And S27 says S27 in the brackets, subsection 3, it says that every person has the right to civil proceedings and brought by the Crown. Well, we are the Crown. So, so we are the Crown, so we can use S27 and S28, right? But then you go here to your 1688 and you're going to be using, excessive bail. And under excessive bail, so the thing about the 1688 is that it doesn't have sections. It doesn't have S1, S2. And all of them come under S1, all of them. And then all of the rules for the Parliament come under S2. And I get a bit confused about where they're starting to number them now. I get a bit confused about. So I prefer just to use the vocabulary. So you can use, it says here excessive bail, but it says excessive bail ought not to be required. And then it says excessive fines not to be imposed. Well, they have got all these fines and all of these conditions that you have to be locked in your house and you're not allowed to go out of your house and you've got to be locked up for 2 weeks. And then it says, nor cruel and unusual punishments inflicted. Well, getting that V against your will, that's a cruel and unusual punishment. It's not. So that's, and you didn't get even convicted of anything. They were forcing people to shove things down their noses. And so I would take a shot at using this one. And then this is constant, and I'll just go down to the other one. It says all grants and promises of fines and forfeitures of particular persons before conviction are illegal and void. They're making you be locked up inside your house, not being allowed to enter your job, not being allowed to enter your sports arenas, and there's no evidence that there's anything wrong with you.
Yeah, you're actually a healthy person.
You're a healthy person. And you could even if you go and get your little testy thing that you can get, right? They still are not letting you in the gyms because you didn't have the V. Well, they don't even know if there's anything wrong with you. That's a forfeiture of person without conviction. That's illegal. And they're preventing you from going about your daily lives, and they haven't proven that there's anything wrong with you. So I would use that one. And then the way that you use it is now I'm happy for anyone to go and do this, or if you want me to do it, you can come and do it, but you have to pay me. But if you want to go and do it by yourselves, I'm happy for you because I'm busy with fighting the United Nations. But what you do...
yeah, this is something that people that are getting affected from these mandates and from this, as you say, cruel and unusual punishment, that we can start implementing and taking cases to court under those.
You've got to do your due diligence first. When you go and get this, you attach it to your next prosecution. If you win here, you've already won in the other case. And you just attach it, and because you go, the way that you go is you write a letter and you say, you declare that you are a faithful Protestant, and you can even declare, if you want to, you can declare your allegiance to the Majesty. So help me God.
even if we weren't particularly affected, we could just start bringing those cases to the High
Yes,
Court.
yes, because you are affected.
For
I don't.
our family,
You
for
know
my
what?
future, for
Listen,
my children.
listen to me. You're all affected. Anytime that you've been told not to leave your house, you've been
Yes,
affected.
absolutely.
Anytime they've told you not to go to the park, you've been affected. All these protests have affected you. So you're all
Yeah.
affected. You have been your person has been affected because they have been putting you in
Inhibited.
lockdowns, in prison, without any conviction against you. They're just saying, hey, and they're taking the role of God. They think they can just take the role of God because God says when you get born, you're going to get sick. You can't be born and not never get sick. It's like saying, I'm going to have my child born. I'm going to put my child into this plastic bubble. I'm never going to let them go out because they're going to get sick. They're going to get measles. They're going to get colds. They're going to get cuts on their arms. They're going to get broken arms and broken. So therefore, I'm going to lock them in this bubble. Well, that is not the way of God, is it?
No, we don't want to live like that.
God says you're going to be born and there are going to be reasonable risks to your person.
Absolutely.
And people are going to die.
And we've always accepted that.
Well, it's not whether you accept it, it is. You have to. It's in the natural law.
So many people that fall under the propaganda, I guess.
It is a fallacy that you're not going to get sick. And so to lock you up means that they are basically playing God. They're saying, we're going to be playing God and we're going to put you into these cages and so that we can protect, we're going to play God. Whereas God says we all have free will, right? And he says that because of your free will, you're going to get diseases, you're going to get sick. And he's just going to let that happen through the natural order. And what they're doing is playing God, and that's what they're doing. And so the 1688 is all about the natural law.
Yeah, and that's what they've done the whole time, is just paid the fear of playing God. And it's that's where it's going, is the New World Order, the one world government. I mean, you can see now they're bringing in a war, nuclear, Putin, this sort of stuff. It's more propaganda, I guess, and fear, because the masses are getting scared again. First of all, they thought, I'm going to die of a virus. Now they think, I'm going to die of nuclear, and that's what we're saying, is they just, it's psychological warfare on humanity.
But do you remember?
No peace and tranquility.
That's right. But do you remember there was a famous movie called Born Free, and it was a team of photographers that wanted to go into the African. It's a famous African national park called the Serengeti Reserve or something, and they went in there, and there was a baby lion that was dying in the sun, and they had signed agreements before they went in saying that they would not touch anything in there to interrupt the natural order of God. And they went in there, and there was a baby lion cub dying in the sun because its mother had been killed, and the lion cub would have been eaten by another lion. They picked up the lion cub and they left the reserve with the lion cub on their truck. And I think they may have gotten thrown out the country. There was a huge protest because they had interfered with the natural order of things, because by taking that lion cub, they had taken away the food of another animal that was grown to adulthood that may have needed that food in order to reproduce other lion cubs. You see, there's always a natural order of things where when they interfere with the natural will of God, then there's going to be always serious consequences. And I think that this is the line that I would take in a court case.
Yeah, absolutely.
So whenever you use the 1688, I've been watching how the judge writes their rulings, and whenever you use because this is all based on the natural law, and it's called indubitable rights, and you have to show it to be unquestionable. And the way that you show it to be unquestionable is to use nature. The judges will, whenever they make these rulings, will put in something that comes from nature. And as soon as you can show that it comes from nature, that they have interfered with the natural order of your life, then you're going to win this declaration based on that, because they went against the natural order of God. So I'll just show you that, and I'll show you how I used it in my case. So, so what you, so you can go and do this by yourself, and if you can actually write it all up in an abstract kind of a way, because mine was so messy, and once you have the messy version written up, you can go and give it to someone like me, or there are many others, some common law person, and get them to write it up for you in the court form. If you do all the legwork for them, they'll put it into order for you to make it acceptable in the court. So that's why I'm just giving you all this information now. What you're going to be asking the court for, you're going to use the excessive bail of the cruel and unusual punishments, and also
I should be writing this down.
No, because you can watch the video and get it from there.
Yeah,
can't you? So in the excessive bail, that is because they've locked you all up and said you're not allowed to go out, and then you use that together with your forfeiture of your person, and that is illegal and void. All right. And then you're going to go down to your subjects' liberties to be allowed, and you're going to ask the judge for a declaration to say that these two rights have been interfered with. That's what you're going to be saying. And the judge will give you a declaration to say that that was the case. Now, the key point is...
If you had more than two declarations, two rights, what about being forced out of a job and, because you had to have the...
What I would do, I think what you've got to do is put a test case through first and leave some things out so that you can go back again if we fail here. Yeah, and if we fail here, like I failed in my first case, they gave me loads of stuff and I've come back with 10 guns blazing because of what they did. So if you're going to put something in and see if you can get these declarations, and then if you can't, because this is what the United Nations is doing, they just keep banging them and banging them and banging them, and that's what we're going to do. You only want to use it for one thing, so you can use it for your lockdowns and maybe your sports centres, all right, and also the EV, so you can put in a couple of things. But your main focus is that you have been prevented from going to places, prevented from going to your job, prevented from leaving your house, all of those things, and no conviction. So I would go along those, and I'm going to ask for a declaration of that, right? And that is from going to your job, because they said, well, it's up to the employers whether they want to let you into the office or not. And I'm saying, well, hey, it's not up to the employers either, because they've all got to follow these rights as well. Everybody's got to obey the rights, everybody. So they still are preventing you from entering. They're saying that they have the right to prevent you from entering their premises, all right? And because you didn't have the V. And I'm saying that they are preventing you from entering the premises without any conviction to you that you had anything wrong with you. So you don't use that word discrimination. Don't even use it.
Really, yeah.
You're not going to win on discrimination. I'm telling you, they're not going to let it win, because the minute they all know, my husband's calling.
Oh, God.
Yes, dear. Hello, dear.
Yeah.
That's my husband.
Are you okay there?
Okay, dear. คุยกันกับเพื่อนลืมเสีย
ข้าวโพดอร่อยไหม
เขา
Hello.
เขา
คอนอร่อยไหม
Where is
คอน
he? Why is he not home?
คอนลืมคอน
คอน
กำลังโอเคเสร็จแล้วshit ไม่ได้ร้อนลอยไม่ได้ไม่ลืมโอเคบ๊ายบาย dear I love you dear โอเคต้องยิงนะ
Yeah.
Okay, I love you dear, bye bye.
I love you, dear. Bye.
Oh, that's sweet.
Right, there's
Where
my
is
husband.
he? What
He's-
time is it there?
He's at the banana farm with his mother, which means that I can do more. This suits me
Yeah.
greatly. Okay, so now I wanted to get this on this video because it's very important that I get this on. So you're going to go to get your declaration, and you're going to ask, and then the judge will give you a declaration ordering all officers and ministers to stand down. And when he does that, then you can go and prosecute. Now, I want you to go to one more, which is very important, and it's called here limitation of the crown. And under the limitation of the crown, they must govern you with unity, peace, tranquility, and safety of this nation doth under God. And so you can say that you're no longer peaceful, you're no longer tranquil, and you're not feeling unified. And so I would definitely use those three.
So, Kate, do you think that we should all start doing these declarations?
I think-
anyone like
What I think is what we should do is put together one, and then just get everybody to get families. Get families.
I feel that as well, because there's so many people that it's like it's a process, isn't it? You know, it's a lot of information, and you know, to get a court document, not everyone has that capability.
I think because I want, you know, I've had to learn all this stuff, and
Yeah.
I'm better for it because I'm better armed for my life now. And so I don't want to just go and do it for everyone. I want people to try and do some of this themselves so that they learn.
Take that on.
Yeah.
You know, like learn about it, so I can do it for say, like for me and my children. I've got 25, 23, 21. You know, it's too much for them. But the thing is, they are on my side. You know, we're batting on the same team. We've got loads of people that we can bring in on this.
And all
I
your
believe.
families, you know, you could get 2 to 3 families together and just go together as your families. Your whole family
Yeah.
can put their names
I
on
think
there.
Once we go and do, say, like a case or something like that, we'll get others, you know, and then we can set a precedent. We can do this, and then that's what we need. We just need numbers.
Yeah, because I'm just saying, you don't need huge numbers. You know, you only need one to go through the court, and then once it's done, we're going to see what happens,
Yes.
and then others are going to follow. But I'm saying that we want to try a new thing. We all know that for 2 years you've been battling using this 1990 ass wipe,
Yeah, absolutely.
haven't you?
You know, yeah, I do. So I think that I see it. I see it for my children. I see it for my future grandchildren or generations to come. That's where I see it. It's not good. Where we're going.
Well, as you can
And
see now, because they've got a new one out now, because look, as soon as the judge made the ruling,
yeah,
they went out and made a new one called the COVID-19 Public Health Response Vaccinations Order 2021. They've made a new one and added a whole bunch of stuff to it. This come
when
out
was that, Kate? When
14th
was
of
that from?
February. They put this out on, that ruling came out on the 15th of February, and this
Yeah.
new thing came out on the 14th of February. I'm very suspicious about what's going on here. Why did it come out on the 14th of February? So this is the new one. But look on here. It doesn't say
That's
New
the
Zealand.
That's the COVID response health. Oh, it doesn't say New Zealand, but that is worldwide, possibly, is it? Or the Commonwealth?
Well,
So many
I
data
was-
rolling this out, aren't they, for every
I was
nation?
I was looking at this, and I'm just going to throw it out there. I actually think it's for people that they are importing with HIV.
Into New Zealand, you
Yeah.
mean, or every country?
No, only New Zealand. New Zealand has decided to be the country to take all the transsexuals and HIV infected refugees, and none of the other countries will take them. And we do take them, and I think that's what this is about. It's about
Isn't the HIV coming from the V? Are they getting the HIV from the V? So who are these refugees? As you say, what country are they bringing them in from?
I think any countries, because I've read this, and it just seems very strange. And I was looking at it, and I was looking at the people involved, and I was thinking they're going to put these people in hospitals, in home nursing cares, and many of them have got TB. Many of the refugees have got, no offence to them, but they have got TB. What they're doing is exporting all their problems to our country. And I think that we need to put an end to that. So, but
my God, so we're going to be absolutely infiltrated with sickness.
They're importing sickness. They did it to the Maoris 100 years ago.
We're like a third world country because our
Yes.
systems are failing.
And
we are going to be
you can correct me if I'm wrong, if anybody can see anything wrong, but I haven't seen it say New Zealand on here. Here. It says here the director of the Maritime New Zealand. It doesn't say New Zealand on here. And I'm just suspicious because it's just very strange to me. And it looks to me like I think they're importing all the HIV people from the islands because they haven't got the care facilities, and they're bringing them all into New Zealand. And they're trying to set up restrictions so that they can't go around infecting all our population. And that's what I think it's about. That's my conspiracy theory, everyone.
What do you mean the restrictions that they would set these people bringing them
Well,
in?
if you read this, it's got everything, and I'm thinking it just is very weird to me. And just doesn't really say New Zealand. has got a couple of wee places, but I'm trying to find something here. It's got all the booster doses, but when you've got HIV, you have to get many booster doses. You have to get these.
Yeah.
You have to
Apparently.
get these injections that prevent you from passing it on, and you have to keep having those every so many months or every year. I think
3 months or something like that.
yeah,
isn't it?
exactly, and that's what I
I don't
reckon.
know.
That's what I reckon
basically
is
they've found the cure.
yeah, that's what I
But
reckon.
isn't that the V that is actually doing the same thing as well? So we're going to be inundated with people with they called it VAIDS, vaccine.
Yeah, I
HIV.
just I don't know, but I think that this is really a I don't think it's for New Zealanders. I'm just going to be honest with you. I think they're trying to deceive you into thinking that, and I do realise that people are losing their jobs, but I think that people are going to be. They just want an excuse to throw our people out of their jobs because the refugees are guaranteed a job, aren't they? And
Right,
so
yeah.
by their laws, you have to give them a job, and they've got no jobs for them. So what better thing to do than to throw all our people out of their jobs and give those jobs to all these people? That's what I think they're doing. I think they've just made New Zealand. There's some very devious things going on here, and we've got a lot of work to do. But I wanted to show you something.
But don't you think that the V is actually causing a lot of this problem? You know, it's been,
I think that I don't really know. I can't really speak to that. I haven't researched it, so I wouldn't like to put my money on it. But you know, I will say that because when they're giving these injections to so many people in such a mass scale, there are going to be mistakes made, aren't there? I mean, whenever you're working anywhere with blood products, and
and no one's trained. You know, it's not highly qualified people that are doing it. You know, they're not from a medical background. It's just anybody that's in a little V centre and doing this stuff. You know.
Because they've got all this stuff about workers handling infected items and all of this, and it just doesn't seem to be making sense for what we've got, you know, for what's going on. And
I want
you've
to
got
see
to
that
keep.
document. I'm going to go and have a look tomorrow.
Yeah, if you try and think it in the way that I'm thinking of it, you might see it differently.
Yeah,
it's quite a long document. I haven't read it, but just the jobs. Oh, I did find something, and now I can't bloody find it. It says.
So that's all the refugees coming in from the islands and where else? Like.
Well, New Zealand is signed up to take 1,500 refugees per year, and New Zealand is one of only maybe 3 or 4 countries that has agreed to take transsexual and HIV infected people. No, yeah, I know. We're only a small country. Didn't they fucking do enough to New Zealand?
Yeah,
so
that's crazy.
Yeah, I think that they did this to the New Zealand Maori, and I think they're doing it again. I do believe they are exterminating the New Zealand people. And this is the way they're doing it. You know that they're aborting 17,000 New Zealand babies a year are being aborted. 17,000 since 19.
In New Zealand?
Yes. I've gone off a bit off track. I'll go off with that, but it's not important what I was going to say.
I mean,
but anyway,
I know.
So you can go and get that. So you can go and get your declaration right. But anyway, you see it doesn't say New Zealand on there. So it's interesting that it doesn't say New Zealand. on the because usually our documents have got New Zealand on it, and yes, I suppose we better finish up because it's a long video again.
Yeah.
Yeah, people can pause it and start, but yeah, since 1975, 17,000 New Zealand babies per year, Maori and Anglo New Zealand babies specifically, are aborted every year, and we have calculated it works out to about 700,000 babies, I think. Since 1975, it's about 700,000 babies. And then when you add to that they're promoting homosexuality to our children and in all of our schools, and then when you add to that they're importing all of this into New Zealand, I'm starting to get a bit freaked out about what they're doing to you in New Zealand. No offence to everybody.
We can see that. Yeah. We look at the bigger picture of what's happening, and it's depopulation, through.
Well, I think they're specifically targeted on New Zealand because I think that they are after Antarctica. And since they found out, here's a whole nother video here. Since they found out, can you do another session if I stop this and start? Or are you sleepy? What's time?
Yeah, I'm getting quite tired. What is the time? It's late here.
Oh, no, I better let you go to sleep. I'll let you go to sleep.
But let's have another session on Antarctica because I'm so interested in that.
Yes, we must have a session on Antarctica. So there's many things going on. But
why? What is that? What is that about?
Oh, now I have to stop the video. I have to do it. You won't sleep. You won't be able to make your choice and don't blame me. We can do it tomorrow or another day. It's all right. It'll still be there.
You aren't responsible.
Let's do a fresh thing because this is good. Let's do a fresh thing another day, but absolutely can't.
All right, we'll do a fresh thing. So next one, just say to me Antarctica, and we'll go on to that. And by that time, I've done a bit more research. So we're going to finish up on this one. So we're going to be finished up, and we're just saying good night now.
Interesting, as you say, that if they're coming into New Zealand, so just to recap, coming into New Zealand to basically wipe out the New Zealand Maori and Anglo people and infiltrate with, well, that's what they want, isn't it? It's a one world government. There's no one to...
Well, New Zealand is key. New Zealand is the key. And as you keep doing the videos, you'll find out why New Zealand is so important to them. And that's why I support Vladimir Putin. I support him.
I do as well.
Yeah, he's our only hope. And he knows all about this because he's over there in Europe where all this began 300 years ago when the royal family were all murdered by the Bolsheviks and the Jews and all of that. So he knows what's going on here. So
he is the key, but also New Zealand is the key. We are the test case for the one world government, aren't we?
And also to get United Nations laws into all the Commonwealth countries. That's what they're after. So it's much bigger than what you think. It is huge.
This is just a smoke screen.
Well, yeah, but what we really need, if New Zealand wants to know what to do, what we need you to do is start using your 1688 Bill of Rights and not put that 1990 employment rights on your paper. Don't even put it, because once you put it on your paper, it will not go to the High Constitutional Court. They're actually blocking you. The minute that you put any international law onto your constitutional document, it's not going to go to the highest constitutional court. It's going to stop at like the administrative court.
Yeah,
absolutely. And so they're really deceiving you. You must not put a single word on that document of any of the law except for you can use New Zealand acts. You can use New Zealand acts, but this is different because this is not a New Zealand act. You can use the Crimes Act of 61. There's many laws in there that you can use. And you will win. I use that.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially like with mask exemptions and stuff like that. I mean, no one actually realises that under the Crimes Act, there's Section 189A that you can't be forced to
cover your mouth. You add that in, throw that in, put that in there. You can use that.
Okay,
Don't use
one.
anything that comes out of that 1990. I might not even use Section 27 actually. I would use only S28. And then you can use the Crimes Act. That is perfect, that one that you just mentioned. Can you mention that again, please?
Absolutely.
What one is that?
It's Section 189A
Yeah.
of the Crimes Act,
Yeah.
1961. And that's about a face covering. That is that, no one has the right to, and that is the government is doing that to every single New Zealander. We've got children,
Yeah. What's that one again? Tell me the number. I keep forgetting.
189A.
Oh. 18.
No, 189A of the Crimes Act.
Right. I've got you. 189. Just want to get you clear. I think you're sleeping. I've kept you up. Yes, this one. When I said to the human rights lawyer about this one, but she said, "Oh, that's not in the spirit of that act." And I said, "But it's in law, they're not going to say that. It says it there. Look, what it says clearly there. I don't need to open it for you.
Very clearly.
But it says it very clearly, blocking another person's nose or mouth or both.
Yeah. That's right.
Everyone is liable to imprisonment
very clear.
for a term not exceeding 7 years who intentionally or recklessly impedes another person's normal breathing. And those masks and blood circulation. And those masks affect your blood circulation, your normal breathing, manually or by using any aid, all or any of the following: blocking the other person's nose or mouth or both, or forcing them to. It's very clear. You attach that on your 1688 with your cruel and unusual punishment and with your forfeiture of person. You've got a hell of a case there. Get your family, get it written up, try and do it yourself so that you learn.
Okay.
And I'll send you a wee example and write it up yourself and then send it to me, and then we'll figure out.
We can do that.
And we can fix it and get it all fixed up and nicely and get it into the court. But don't put any, you must not put any of those outside laws in there. The minute that you do it, you will not go to the Constitutional Court and get your declaration. You won't, because they don't look at mixed. And but just a reminder, the Constitutional Court does not decide whether you win or lose your case. He doesn't even care who wins or who loses. All he looks at is if your right was violated or not. That's all. And he says, yes, here's a declaration to say that this is your right. And that's all he'll say. And then you take that declaration and you attach it, and then you prosecute the government. And you say, look, this is my right, and you've violated it, and so therefore you're not allowed to do it. And then you'll win that case. Then you've got a case for compensation. You do.
Okay, so you get the declaration from the court, from the judge, then you would take a case to the government, which would be in what court? Would that still be the High Court?
No, that'll go to similar to the court. Like, this is an administrative court where they went. It says High Court. It's still High Court, but there are different High Courts. There's the High Court that is, I don't know if they must not call it administrative court, but whenever you've got a case against the government, oh, I've lost my thinking. When you've got a case against the government about one of their laws, you take it, that goes to the administrative court. But it is not concerning your right. That's what happened in that case. When it's concerning your right, it goes to the Constitutional Court. But when it's concerning just a case that you've got that right or whatever, then that just goes to the administrative court. And so you've still got to fight your case in there. But you attach that right to the order, and then that tells them to stand down in regards to that right. But you might still lose your case in other points. But you will have...
Would you have to represent yourself in that court, you know, that you were going to fight? Like, or is it just something that you could do, you know, as you say, you're filing it to the court and you're waiting for that judgment from the court? Or do you have to actually go and physically? Because I know that in the past when I've been represented by lawyers, they always say they don't like anyone just going in. You know, you've got to, they want a lawyer representing you for any particular reason, whatever it is, if you're in a court.
The declaration thing, I think you can just, everybody's entitled to make one declaration.
Yeah.
So I don't think you can go getting declarations every 5 minutes. So it said that everyone could make one declaration. So you could do a family thing or a group of families.
Yes.
The thing is, if you clog up these courts, then you make it bad for people who really desperately need to get there. And so this is not a thing about getting money. I know everybody wants money.
No,
but it's not really about getting money. It's about getting all these mandates stopped and all of this madness stopped.
Yeah, and a future for our children to actually be able to live their lives, you know, our kids. And
I'm going to be the Debbie Downer. I don't think, just in my personal opinion, I don't think that they're ever going to be able to let anybody win on a case that's wanting compensation.
No.
So I don't think, because there are going to be thousands. There are people that are saying, I've been psychologically hurt and I hurt my thumb, and everybody, it's going to open up a Pandora's box.
Yeah,
and
can of worms.
It's going to be a can of worms, and I don't think any judge is going to allow it to go through. I'm sorry, New Zealand. And I believe that all these people are lying to you, telling you that it is going to go through. They've backed themselves up.
They're wanting, yeah. And they're going to be, I don't know, what is it? You know, it is like the mandates. They thought they're going to get their jobs, but they lost. And, you know, they're going to be disappointed, aren't they, and disheartened.
You really are. But you might be able to get all these mandates gone, and you might be able to get your job back. I think if you went for getting your job back, and you probably most likely will not get back pay. Although it's certainly worth a try. But what I would go for, I think that they would definitely on the cards would be asking for the job back. And then if you win on that, then you could take it for the compensation of back pay. So I would do it separately. I would win on little steps. So I would get my declaration. Then I would go and ask the courts to stop that thing and try and get your job back through that one. And then if you've got your job back, then from that, you could go and ask for a back pay after that. But I don't care what these lawyers are telling you. I do believe that they will not let you win on compensation, because there are going to be hundreds upon hundreds of thousands of claims. They're not even going to be able to process it. It ain't going to happen. Be realistic.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if you look at that realistic,
It's like ACC, you know, we have a no-fault system in New Zealand, and the same thing is happening. It's inundated, you know, they cannot, for people that have taken the, you know,
they're not taking you, are they?
taxing
If ACC is
for
not
what?
taking you, ACC is not taking them.
Yeah,
Is anyone allowed
not
to
for
make
all
a
of them.
claim?
Is what?
Is anyone allowed to make a claim at ACC?
Yes, they are recognising claims, absolutely, but they are seeing a high incident with claims. But I think myocarditis, and there's certain things that they are not, that
No.
they're just written off. I mean, so we have a no-fault system here. Like Scott Morrison in Australia has just basically said that if anyone takes you've had a choice, an informed choice. It was your decision. You've taken it, so that's it. There's nothing. Insurance companies in America, they are just, you know, so they're totally taking no responsibility. Families are being left. That's it. You've died of that. You're not getting paid out on your insurance policy because you've taken that, and it's informed consent. You know, so there's a lot of stuff going on, isn't there?
I don't think you're ever going to get around it, Diane.
No.
You could beat your head against the wall. You're going to waste your life. And I don't think that I suppose there are these greedy lawyers that are going to tell you, because every time they put through a human rights case, they get paid, you know. That's where their money is. But do you know what? That's all coming out of taxpayers' money, because that's paid by the taxes, and our bill in New Zealand is now 51 billion and going up at 14 billion a year. And so that all of that they're getting paid for. You are not going to win in that area, and in the end you are going to be paying for that. Not you, but your children and your children's children going to be paying. So nobody cares, because everybody thinks, I want my money now. And I tell you something, if I thought that anyone was going to win one of these cases and you were going to get that money, I would be the first one that would jump in and say, by hell yes, get down there. But if you look at it realistically, they're not going to be able to allow it, because they're not going to be able to pay that much money. There isn't that much money in the world.
This is not just about New Zealand. It is the world economic crisis, financial.
And if they pass a case in New Zealand, that's going to affect every other country in the world. They're not going to do it.
Yeah.
I don't care what these lawyers are telling you. They're lying to you. They are blatantly lying to you.
And that's what they're doing, is taking advantage of the vulnerable. Yeah?
Well, yes.
The vulnerable.
Yes.
And then they're stitching them up on the 1990 and everything else and giving them false hope.
Yes.
And that's what, you know, we're trying to say, well, no, we don't want you to be going in on the 1990.
And then they get paid.
Yeah,
they get paid per hour.
They don't.
Every one of your cases, whether they win or lose, is a public interest case. And so the judge gives them payment per hour, per person, per case. But I am here to tell you, you are not going to win on that. You're not. You might win on the serious injury through ACC, but it would be on things like you lost your arm, or you can't walk. You're not going to win on anything that they can get around. So it's going to be a very extremely high threshold that you have to be able to prove that I got that thing and I lost my arm because of that. And it can be shown that you had an arm, and after you had that, you didn't have an arm. but it's not going to be on a lot of things. So the lawyers are lying to you, and you can go and get if you've got a serious injury, then definitely go to ACC. I would definitely go through that route, which you're going to have to. But you don't need to go to court for that. You can go directly to ACC and make your claim, get your claim through. If you've got a good lawyer, they'll get a good claim for you. Go directly there. You really don't need to go through the court. But all you ones that want to go because you said, I've got whatever, you're not going to win. If you can't win at ACC, you ain't going to win at the court.
No, absolutely.
And but I think in this thing it's going to be better outcome for you, because I think that you could win your job back, and I think that you could win not having to wear masks and to stop all these mandates and all of that. I think you could win it in the grander scale for your children. So that's still a good thing. Still a good thing, isn't it?
Yeah, well, that's what we want, isn't it? And, as you say, wearing masks and stuff like that. I mean, apparently someone said that because, everyone that has an exemption, which to me, that is everybody is entitled to an exemption under the Crimes Act, Section 189, because you're forcing someone not to be able to breathe, as we say.
I'm saying that you shouldn't have to apply for that exemption.
No.
Because you have to pay $100 to get the exemption. So I'm saying that you should not have to apply for an exemption.
Not in New Zealand, you don't have to apply for an exemption from not to wear a mask. It is self-regulatory. But a lot of people don't know that.
Who said it was mandatory?
They have made it almost mandatory for most people on buses, public transport, everything else. But there's not many people, if you go out, everyone is wearing a mask.
See, I think they've done it because of TB. I think they've brought a lot of people get TB in the refugee camps. And it takes months and months and months to heal it. And a lot of people don't go back to finish up their treatments when they're almost well but not completely well. And then they spread it to people. And so there's a lot of TB in the refugee camps. And they bring them to New Zealand and they go to quarantine for 2 weeks. While they're in quarantine, they check for TB. And if they've got TB, they're sent into the community, but they have to be monitored very closely to make sure that they keep getting their treatments and keep taking the medication and their shots and things. And so I'm thinking that a lot of this is to do with that, so that they have the right, the government have the right to take those people and force them to get their shots and things for the TB. That's what I'm thinking, that this is a sneaky thing. I don't think it's got anything to do with anything. So it can only be said in a conspiracy theory. But, and so that's why you're not allowed on the Trump, because if they've got TB, you don't want them coughing on you, because you'll get TB. And next thing, they've got a pandemic of TB in New Zealand where we've never had it before. And so some TB is very contagious, and some of the TB, they don't have a cure for it anymore. And they do know that in Europe, there was a lot of imported TB and a lot of imported HIV. They've got the highest cases because all those countries don't provide medication. So they said that it's a humanitarian thing, that they have to help them. So they've decided to bring all these people to our countries. And I don't think that's correct. So...
Well, especially that New Zealanders aren't aware of it.
Well, they bloody well now. They'll be aware after they see our video, won't they? They're going to bloody well be aware of it now, aren't they? Because we're taking them all. It's not fair, because we're a very small country. And I think that we already take care of the islands. I think it's enough that we take care of 3 islands. If we take care of 3 Islands, Tokelau, Niue, and Cook Islands. We already take care of them for a small country. And then we also are being expected to take care of all the other islands on top of that when America's supposed to take care of them because they belong to them. And now they're expecting New Zealand to take care of all of the infected refugees. I think I think that they've overstepped what they should be asking for a small country. And I just think that New Zealand is too kind. And you need to toughen up a bit. None of the other countries are doing these things. None of them. And so I don't know why you're doing it. Because I think that each country has to be responsible for their own people. And I think that should be the way it is. It would be better for us to send money over to those countries, to make an agreement that we will send X amount over to those countries, or we will pay for them to have that medication in their own country, and they have to say that. Because remember that, if they get that disease, apparently the penalty is death in those countries. Well, what the United Nations should be doing is forcing those countries to change their laws to take out this death penalty for those people, rather than saying, we're going to scoop them up and put you over in these countries and endanger all these other people. I don't think that is not right thinking. It's like saying when you've got two naughty children, you've got one naughty child in the classroom, so you set them next to the clever child, hoping that the clever child will stop them from being naughty. And then you end up with two naughty kids instead of one, don't you?
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
It's not the right thing to do. It's not good thinking. But since they are thinking like that.
Yeah, but this is our government, isn't it?
Well, look,
It's
it's in the
showing
government. 50% of Parliament are foreigners. You've got refugees running our immigration. What do you think they're going to do?
Yeah. And that's why they're doing it.
You've got Golritz Garaman. She's a refugee. You've got Alpito Williams Co. He's from the Samoan Islands, and then you've got Chris Farfoy all heading up New Zealand immigration. What do you think is going to happen?
Absolutely.
There's that. I mean, that's not a good idea, isn't it? So these are what the issues that we have here, Diane.
Yeah.
And we do it dealing with them. So you get a group together. You better go.
Right,
Get some sleep.
And the next thing we're going to talk